Happy New Year! Happy 2020 to all of you out there, our wonderful listeners. We're jumping head on into the new year with you guys on another episode of ENN. This is number 16. This is season 2, episode 1. And I hope you're excited for the ride because I'm really anticipating good things this year. I'm anticipating a lot more growth. I'm anticipating, us getting a lot better at this, us engaging with you guys a lot more. And when I say us, I'm talking about the three amigos, the three musketeers, the holy trinity of the Exile Nation, and that will be myself, Christian.
What's up, man? Happy New Year, guys. Really pumped to be back for 2020.
Yes, sir. And Paul.
Hey guys, Happy New Year. Yeah, I was looking forward to getting back to it. It's been a long couple weeks and looking forward to getting into it tonight.
Absolutely. We are back like bra straps.
I don't even know what to say to that.
Yeah, I was going to say I'm still processing that.
All right. So, without further ado, let's get into the rundown. We are going to talk about this news that's hot off the press is Scott Derrickson in a stunner leaves Marvel. Our second topic will be about a movie called Going Electric. This is James Mangold's next feature film project, and it will star Timothée Chalamet as a young Bob Dylan. We're going to talk about an update from director Muschietti on the Flash movie over at DC Films. And then in our coming soon section, we're going to talk about 3 trailers. The New Mutants trailer, Quiet Place 2 trailer, and the Birds of Prey trailer. So, ladies and gentlemen, buckle your seatbelts, and here we go. Scott Derrickson leaves Marvel due to creative differences. In a stunner of a Twitter post, he said, and I quote, "Marvel and I have mutually agreed to part ways on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness due to creative differences. I'm thankful for our collaboration and will remain on as EP. EP meaning executive producer. And also, we should note a little bit of information that's maybe pertinent to this, that about a month ago, Scott Derrickson supported Oscar Isaac after he said, I would work for Disney again only if they put a gun to my head. He quoted that tweet and said, thanks for Oscar Isaac, something like that. But that was a little jab, a little diss at Disney, and people were wondering what was going on. And it seems that fruit of hate has bloomed and borne fruit. So, guys, let's start with Christian. What do you make of Scott Derrickson leaving Marvel? I mean, did you have any inclination of this? Are you shocked? Are you not surprised? How do you take the news and how do you analyze it? What does it mean for Marvel and for the project going forward?
Well, I don't know how you can look at this and say that this is a good thing. I just don't know how you can. I mean, look, I'm not alone in the world, but I'm alone in the Film Exiles and our sister podcast, Exiles Network, as an MCU fan in this particular group. And I love the MCU and I'm looking forward to the next phase. But, what Scott brought to Doctor Strange Part 1 was probably the trippiest MCU movie we had. And it's one of the few that non-MCU fans even also seem to enjoy. It was a different movie. It was an interesting movie. And Doctor Strange became a very important character for that universe. He was important in Infinity War and he was important in Endgame, and he was going to be important moving forward. And I think that will remain. And I really liked what Scott was going to bring to the table. Now, you can go back and take a look at my tweets. I never understood why people were convinced that this was going to be a horror movie. I mean, Kevin Feige kind of put the kibosh on that at the beginning. Was like, no, this is an MCU movie with horror elements. We're not making a horror movie there. So that always seemed to be the case. However, everybody on both sides used that story for their own narrative, and then they spun it the way they needed to spin it, and that's fine. And now that he's left, they're spinning it for their own narratives as well. But I think there is something to be said here. When you take a look and they say the dreaded creative differences, I believe that actually. I think there are and were creative differences. The one show that's coming up on Disney Plus that I am most looking forward to on a personal level is WandaVision. And if you know anything about Scarlet Witch and her background, and the House of M storyline in the comic books, which I won't go into here because I'll just drive you guys crazy and we'll talk for 2 hours about it. Wanda has the ability to change matter and reorganize that and do so many different things. And the people that are not looking closely enough at WandaVision and taking a look at that kind of 1950s sitcom feel, this looks to me like something she's making up in her brain to try to bring Vision back to life, and it's something that she's doing inside her head. And they said that Wanda was going to be an extremely important part of Doctor Strange Part 2. And I will bet money that Feige and Marvel Studios turned around and said, dude, WandaVision is going to be an important part of the moving forward. We need to change this. We need to do this. This is the ending that we want you to go to. And I bet Scott was like, nah, thanks anyway, man. I can't. This is what I wanted to do. And this is not where this movie's going. And we're not seeing eye to eye here. So I think the creative differences were exactly that. And what is probably going to happen is they're going to find a director that's going to be more closely aligned to their vision. Now, Feige gets trashed a lot for not allowing his directors to go off and do what they need to do. I disagree with that only to a certain extent. I do believe some of his directors do have the ability to put their own flair into it. But the three of us know on this podcast, you make an MCU movie, you're making something that's a little more formulaic. And how much you want to bet that Scott was being asked to do something that was going to fit into the MCU, because at the end of that movie, it had to make sure that it matched up with the next episode. And that probably was going to have to match up with whatever is going on with WandaVision. I think this hurts them. I really do. I now, as an MCU fan, am less hyped for this movie than I was before. I'm more hyped now for the Eternals, which I was already hyped for to begin with. But now I'm less excited for this movie because of this news. And I don't necessarily like the fact that I have to watch WandaVision to see what's going on in Doctor Strange Part 2. So I don't think this is helpful to them. I really don't. And it will further people's feeling that the MCU is just strangling their creators and their directors and forcing them to just align with their vision. I'm sure you guys will probably agree with that part, but I can tell you as an MCU fan, you can't be happy with this, and I don't care how you try to spin it. I really don't, because this is not a good thing. Scott's a good filmmaker, and losing him here, you're going to lose that style. And I'm happy that, fine, the MCU will continue, but you're losing that style. So, no, I'm not happy about this, guys. I'm really not.
Okay. Paul, what's your take on the events that have happened?
Yeah, well, I don't know that I can really add a whole lot above and beyond what Christian just said. He covered it very well and very thoroughly, and obviously Christian's got more knowledge of the MCU. I can only look at it as someone that is not a fan of the MCU, but someone who didn't mind Doctor Strange, the first one. I thought it was fine. It wasn't especially memorable for me, but the fact that I didn't dislike it says something. That puts it above some of its MCU peers. I think it is sort of symptomatic of the growing frustration with MCU and Disney that I think a lot of people are feeling. It is certainly episodic, formulaic, and anyone that wants to stray from Feige's grand vision obviously is at minimum restrained from doing that to much of an extent. Now, obviously, he has shown some flexibility with filmmakers like Taika Waititi, but it's still very producer-driven, commercial product to sell toys and build theme park attractions off of. It's got to stay family-oriented. The MCU makes their money off teens and families with kids, right? That's their core audience. So, if Derrickson wanted to do something with horror elements that were maybe too horrific for that family audience, something that strayed from the PG-13 4-quadrant family appeal that they strive for, then it would make sense that there'd be some creative differences. So, in a way, it's almost nice to see. I mean, it's bad for the MCU because I think the first Doctor Strange was good, and I would have actually been moderately interested in seeing another one. But it's good in the sense that it's nice to see creatives standing up to the Marvel machine a little bit. So if that's what you take out of this, which is sort of what I take out of this, I think it's a small victory for art over fast food filmmaking. So I guess that's a win in that sense. But beyond that, I don't really have a whole lot to add.
Okay. I mean, that was a good take. The point about director-driven versus producer-driven is very important because I think Christian's a little bit confused as to why people are so adamant about the I guess you can call it an opinion, that the film was supposed to be more horror um, driven, but that Feige probably wants it to be less horror driven. Well, Scott Derrickson has alluded to horror elements in the film. Um, and most good film fans, I would say, would side with the director over anyone else, over a producer, over studio executives, over fans. The director is the auteur, he's the author of the piece of work. So people would expect that whatever Scott Derrickson says goes, but in Marvel, it's not like that. It's Feige's show, and the directors are, I don't want to say puppets on a string, but we have heard quite a few scathing remarks about how things are done there in terms of creativity. So that's the reason why people are quite adamant about the opinion that it's this creative difference is based on horror, versus non-horror uh, creative difference. What I will say is that one, Scott Derrickson seems really pissed off. Let's first start with this. He absolutely loves the Doctor Strange character and that world. Ever since he was put on, his whole attitude about it, it's not something that he's taken as a stepping stone or just a paycheck gig. He actually loves it, and it suits his talents as well, as far as a lot of us are concerned. So his comment that he left, if you read it, it's very curt, it's very precise, very straight to the point. There is no fluff. It's almost like, I have to do this. So, and I don't really want to say what I want to say. So I'm just going to put this out. Also, his sneak diss with the Oscar Isaac thing a month ago, that's a big deal. Like, don't let that just slide on the table. That's a really big deal. And whatever creative differences they had, it wasn't minor, it was major. And one thing we should remember is that Doctor Strange, the Part 1 movie, was rejigged. Don't forget that the movie was kind, at least for Marvel, dark and serious, and they actually brought in a comedy writer to write jokes. That's why we got some of those terrible, like Beyonce jokes that just threw some parts of it off. So this is symptomatic of a problem that I see with Marvel, and a reason why I'm not as big a fan of their franchise as a lot of other people are. I'm a person who likes art that pushes the boundaries, that does something new, that is not formulaic at all, that isn't generic. And Kevin Feige doesn't care about that because he's there to make money. I don't care about the money that they make because none of it goes into my pocket. I care about the art. And I feel like Kevin Feige stifles art. This is an extreme example of that, but it's par for the course, to be sincere. So that's what I have to say about it. I'm not interested in the next phase of Marvel movies anyway, so it's whatever for me. But for those who are interested, I wish you guys luck, but you guys have liked what you've gotten so far, so you should be okay. You should be fine.
Yeah, and then I want to make sure I clarify. I'm not blind to the fact of what you just said, where most people look towards the director, and that person that he or she is the leader. They're the ones who's enacting the artistic vision. We're about to talk about a movie like that in a couple of minutes. And I'm not blind to that. I just think as an MCU fan, I know what I'm a fan of in the MCU. If there are fans out there that don't believe that and they're that naive, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. Please do your research. I consider myself hopefully a different MCU fan, but I know what the MCU is, and I like it that way. That's fine. That's why, to me, I was not surprised when people started saying this wasn't going to be a horror movie. I'm like, yeah, duh. Like I felt that way, but I spoke with a lot of people that were like, yeah, but Scott said this. I always felt it was like, it kind of doesn't matter what Scott says. Now, whether that's right or wrong, I think is a conversation for another day, but that's the MCU. You know what I mean? And I think I understand this. I understand the product that I like. I get it. You know what I mean? And because I'm also a fan of Ford versus Ferrari and all those other movies. But when I like the MCU, I'm fine with it. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. That's not, like I said, that's not the conversation. We could do another pod on that another day on whether this is right or wrong. But that's why I was not really shocked when that story started coming out that it wasn't a horror movie. It was like, I didn't think Marvel Studios would allow that. It's just me.
No, that's a really good point. And that's a great observation by you and very self-aware. And I appreciate that, because for me, when I heard that, I was kind of a little bit surprised and like, okay, so Marvel's going to make a horror movie. Wow, they beat DC to the punch. I would expect that DC would have, made a horror movie by now. They have the IPs. They have some very strong IPs that are parked right in the horror genre.
You're 100% right.
Yeah, and we're going to talk about a movie coming up that Fox, they were doing some different things, and one of it was a horror superhero movie, and
yes.
We'll talk about that a bit more. But we've talked about this Scott Derrickson thing quite a bit. He's a huge fan of Watchmen, so I always, in the back of my mind, I always thought he was a poor fit for Marvel. I will be completely honest with you, because
I won't disagree with you on that.
Yeah, someone who thinks that Watchmen is like the greatest comic book movie ever, making Marvel movies, it just doesn't compute. It doesn't add up. Like there's something, there's something that doesn't add up in that equation, and I guess we can see where the fissure is. So, as we said, I wish Marvel all the best. When their movies come out, I'm going to watch all of them. So, well, there you go. Our next topic is about James Mangold's next directorial project, and it's James Mangold is just becoming one of these directors that everything he touches turns to gold. See what I did there? He directed Logan, which is a modern classic. It's a near masterpiece, a near perfect movie, in my opinion, and that of many. Ford versus Ferrari is one that we reviewed. Christian, thank you very much for your review. I've heard so many good things about it. I haven't yet seen it, but from all quarters, 2 thumbs up all the way. So I'm really looking forward to whatever he does next. And what he's doing next is called, for the moment, Going Electric, and it's a story of a young Bob Dylan and how he switched from his more acoustic folk roots to more edgy rock and roll. It will star Timothée Chalamet, the budding incredible supernova superstar, and I'm very curious about this one. So I don't know too much about Bob Dylan. That's not my core musical inclination, but we have an expert on the podcast. That's why it's always good to have a diverse cast. And so we'll start with the expert. Christian, tell us about what you think about this project and educate us.
I wish I was an expert. I do. It's very difficult for me to live up to that. No, I am a musician, and at the time of this recording, Bob Dylan is 78 years old, and he is still to this day relevant. He goes off and releases music on Amazon and Spotify and some of the other digital marketplaces that are out there, and he still gets downloads and he still gets hits. It's incredible. He mixes a wide variety of music, from folk to pop to country to rock and roll. He's his own songwriter, which is always something that as a musician you appreciate. He's not somebody that, does cookie cutter pop and everything. He goes off and writes his own stuff, and he's written songs like Blowing in the Wind and The Times They Are Changing, and those things became anthems for anti-war, civil rights.
Okay,
go ahead.
I'm going to stop you there.
Yeah.
The Times They Are Changing, I know that one because I love Zack Snyder's Watchmen.
And that's the song.
It's an intro, yes. So I know that song, and super iconic. But carry on, I'm excited.
No, it's amazing. And when you go back, if you guys get an opportunity after this, you should Google his discography. You should Google all of his songs. It is incredible. He's part of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. He's in the Nashville Hall of Fame, the Minnesota. He's won a Pulitzer Prize. The guy is amazing. Let's just leave it at that. The guy's an amazing songwriter and seems overall to just be a good guy. But when he was young, I think he was born in like 1941 or 1942. So when he was young, he was a folk singer. That's what he did. And he had an amazing array of acoustic guitars, and he had most of his songs were simple and smaller, and relied on just an acoustic guitar and his voice, and that was it. And he decided to trade it in for rock and roll, an electric guitar, and an amp. And he decided to change his sound up. And there was this huge outcry, and his fans went crazy, and they flipped out about it. And then guess what? Like 2 years later, he was cemented as a rock and roll star. And what he was able to do was take all that stuff that he always believed in, like civil rights and things like that, and he just moved it to rock and roll. That's all he did. And I think what he's been able to achieve and what he's been able to accomplish this day speaks for itself. A guy like James Mangold, in my opinion, what do I know? But in my opinion, I think he is the perfect man to do a biopic on this. Ford versus Ferrari was done so well because it was small and it focused on the relationships between the people that were creating the Ford GT, and it focused on what they gained and what they lost and their heartbreak and their love and all of that. And I really think that Mangold is the guy that can do that for Bob Dylan. We're going to learn about his music and why he was so passionate about it and why he felt that he had to make this change, not just for commercialism, but because he honestly believed that it was for his message to get out there. And Mangold, I really think, is the guy to do that. And the last thing I mentioned before I pass it off to you guys is I'm so happy that this is another example of Fox Searchlight continuing, because I was so scared with the Disney acquisition that they were going to whack Searchlight, because Fox 2000 is already going to go. And I was so scared that Searchlight was going to go. And it seems like they're going to keep it going. And this is the type of movie that Fox Searchlight can make with this kind of filmmaker that can be successful, can be an Oscar winner. This is the kind of stuff that you want to see. So I'm really, as a musician, I'm so psyched for this movie, so hyped up. And from a filmmaker who is rapidly becoming one of my personal favorites, I don't know how much more I can say about this, guys. I'm really, really excited about this. This is great news for me as a musician.
All right. Before we pass it on to Paul, what do you think of Timothée Chalamet playing a young Bob Dylan?
Well, I've only seen him in the one movie that you recommended that I see on Netflix. So
okay.
That was it. So from that, if I had to put a comparison, that he played very well in The King. He was very, very good at that. I felt that he brought gravitas to the role, even though he was so young, and he's got a baby face.
Yeah.
But what's interesting about Dylan is I think that you kind of have to have that bit of a baby face in order to do that. I don't know if he's going to, sometimes with these movies, they let the guys learn guitar and they let them do their own singing and things. It'll be interesting to hear if he does do that. I don't know if he's going to, but I saw, and I can't remember, I apologize, I can't remember if it was Deadline or if it was one of the others. They had a side-by-side picture of Bob Dylan when he started making this transition, and they had it next to Timothy. And Bob Dylan's got the big fly sunglasses, and his hair's all over the place, right? And then you see Timothy next to him, and dude, they look so much alike.
Yep.
It's so cool.
I've seen the picture. It's crazy.
So I have, just based on one movie, high hopes for this. I think he's going to nail it. If he brings the same passion and he brings the same dedication, 100%, I'm behind it.
All right. Okay, Paul, do you have anything to add to this potent discussion?
Yeah, not a whole lot. I think Christian covered it pretty thoroughly and brings a lot more background knowledge to it than I do in this case. Like Christian, my exposure to Timothée Chalamet is limited to The King, and I've not yet finished it, but I did like what I saw of him in that. Ford versus Ferrari I've not yet seen, although it does look good to me, and like you, Lupe, I have not heard anyone say anything other than or anyone give it anything other than the highest praise. So I'm looking forward to watching that one. The subject matter itself doesn't particularly interest me. I'm not a huge music guy. I'm not a big fan of Bob Dylan. Not that I'm not a fan of him. I'm just not overly knowledgeable on Bob Dylan, and it's not necessarily my musical taste. Although, like you pointed out, Times They Are Changing from Watchmen is probably one of the songs I most closely associate with any film. The moment I hear even a few words of that song, I instantly think of that opening scene from The Watchmen. Yep. So, I definitely have an association with that song, and it's a good one. Looking at the synopsis for this film, it's certainly an interesting story. It just at a human level, even if you're not a huge fan of his music or music in general, I can see the interest. What I would say is that this is the kind of movie that I'm sure will be excellent. I'm sure it will review very well. People will praise it. I will say that that's one I'm going to have to watch. And 5 years after it comes out, I will have probably forgotten about it without having seen it. So it's that kind of movie for me. So I'm sure it'll be great. Will I get to see it or not? I don't know. It's one of those ones that feels like homework for me until I press play. And, if it catches you in the right mood, I bet you I'll enjoy it. But it's most likely something I will probably not see.
I would like to say something real brief before Lupe jumps in. And I apologize for interrupting you, Lupe. The song in Watchmen 2, do you guys remember All Along the Watchtower? That's a fantastic song that was made popular by Jimi Hendrix. That's actually a Bob Dylan song. He originally wrote it, originally recorded it, and he gave Jimi Hendrix all the credit in the world. He said, I may have written this song, but he said it was Jimmy that made it popular. So keep that in mind. He's had his fingers in the music industry for a long time. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that legacy is incredible. Wow. Well, I don't have anything to add apart from that. James Mangold, Timothée Chalamet. I mean, guys, Timothée Chalamet is basically a young Leonardo DiCaprio or River Phoenix. The dude he's legit. Like, he is legit. Heartthrob, baby-faced, talent. It's basically like God just made another Leonardo DiCaprio. He's that good. His career is on that path. He's been in like amazing movies, all these Oscar type movies. He was in Call Me by Your Name, which is a huge Oscar contender. He was in a film called Beautiful Boy. I think he was in, as I said, he was in The King. He is also in Dune, which will be seen.
Yeah, that's right. He's going to be in Dune. That's right.
Yeah. He was in Little Woman as well, which is getting a lot, like massive awards, praise. So the actor, the director, the subject material, an iconic, rock, folk, American music legend. Yeah, when it comes out, I'm not sure if I'll see it, but if I hear enough good things about it, I will have to see it because I'm into awards talk. As a matter of fact, it's a good time to plug that. The Film Exiles are going to have an awards movie sort of roundup. I'm very excited for it. Been doing homework, been watching the movies, and we're going to talk about the movies that are worthy of awards and all the awards buzz and all that good stuff. So from there, let's move on to talk about a upcoming DC movie. Hopefully, this movie has been in the making for Lord knows ever since the DCEU started. It's the Flash movie. And the rumors are that it's going to still be based on the Flashpoint storyline, which centers around Barry Allen awakening in an altered DC universe to discover that he's the only one aware of some fairly significant changes from his regular timeline, such as a destructive war between Wonder Woman and Aquaman, Superman being held captive in an underground bunker / laboratory, and that Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father, is Batman, and Bruce Wayne is actually dead. So exactly how director Andy Muschietti of It fame will interpret these events remains to be seen. But we can, quote some of his recent comments. He did say that the thing that drew him to the Flash, the character, and this project is the human drama within all the superheroics. He said the human feelings and emotions that play in the drama of it. He said it's going to be fun too. I can't promise that there'll be any horror elements in it, really, but it's a beautiful human story. So recently, Flash has been, stated for a July 2022 release. And apparently Ezra Miller likes, the direction, the script, that whole thing. So what do you guys think of this update on the ever in development Flash movie? Let's start with Christian.
Oh, sorry. I had myself on mute. I apologize. Guys, I don't, man, you know what? This kind of reinforces the idea that I think many of us have had, that Warner Brothers, who, by the way, is in control of some of the greatest comic book intellectual property in Superman and Wonder Woman and Batman, not necessarily knowing what to do with it. And that's one of the things that really bothers me. Now, you guys know the comic story, I'm sure, by this point. Flashpoint comic story is very interesting, and because of it, it started the New 52, which a lot of people liked the New 52. A lot of people didn't. But the New 52 changed many things in the DC universe, and I'm wondering if they want to try to incorporate a lot of that stuff moving forward. Say what you will about Zack Snyder, whether you like him or you hate him. One of the things that Zack did was he gave us a cohesive universe, a storyline that seemed to be connected. And once he was done with whatever he was going to do with Justice League 1 and 2 moving forward, he was still going to be the guy behind the scenes that was pushing everything forward. And I think we've seen a very, very clear separation between what happened with Man of Steel, Batman versus Superman, Wonder Woman, and now we have Shazam, Aquaman, Justice League, Birds of Prey is coming up. It's very different. It's a very different DC. Now, I like that they said that they want to try to focus on character dramas, or whatever you want to call them, maybe not dramas, but character stories. I like the fact that they're trying to do that. What it seems to me, this is just me, it sounds like they want to try to have an excuse to reboot the whole thing. And Flashpoint is a way for them to do it. Now, it would be pretty screwed up because Jason Momoa is pretty universally loved and Gal Gadot is pretty universally loved. But then again, is that a way to do that and suddenly sneak Robert Pattinson's Batman into the universe? Is that a way that and then forget that Ben Affleck's Batman existed? Is that a way to get Henry Cavill's Superman out of there? Is that a way for them to erase the Snyderverse then and move forward? I just don't like this, guys. Flashpoint, it's a fantastic storyline. But then all of a sudden, we're going to get the first movie with the Flash, and that's where they're going. We have no opportunity to fall in love with this character because he was a joke in Justice League. And now all of a sudden, this is what we're going to get. I just don't like it. I think they're going in the wrong direction. Now, again, we have no idea if that's what they're doing. No clue. But to me, it just smacks of a company that wants to try to sweep everything under the rug because now they can emulate what Marvel is doing. And that was never a good idea from the beginning. It was not a good idea from the beginning. They should have probably stuck with what they had. They panicked, they moved, then they panicked again. They do something else. Now we got Justice League Dark or whatever they're doing, DC Dark. I don't know where to go, guys. I'm very, very confused on this. I love the character of Flash, but I just don't know what they're trying to do. And it scares me because in the back of my mind, I think they're going to use this to try to rip the whole thing to shreds.
Paul, what do you think? Do you have the same fears and concerns, or are you more optimistic? You're never optimistic. Why?
Yeah. No, I'm going to stop short of saying I'm optimistic on this one. I mean, when he said it's going to be a different kind of Flashpoint story, I think that's an understatement. I mean, I just rewatched the Flashpoint animated movie to refresh my memory, and I just can't.
It's
sorry,
not
Lupe?
kid friendly.
Oh my God, no!
No.
It's everything they're trying to get away from, and it's like it's gratuitous in the death and violence. It's I would absolutely love for them to bring that to theaters and let all the crybabies watch Wonder Woman strangle Steve Trevor to death. Watch her behead Mera, kill Aquaman by stabbing him through the upper back down through his core. Like, I mean, it's the absolute opposite of everything they've been moving towards. So I don't think this is going to be anything like the Flashpoint story we're used to. My fear is that we're going to get something more like Back to the Future than we are something like the Flashpoint comic. He made the comment that it's going to be fun and that he can't promise there'll be, and when I say he, sorry, I mean Muschietti. He's quoted previously as saying that it's going to be fun and he can't promise that there'll be any horror elements in it really, but it's a beautiful human story. I mean, to me that screams a little more lighthearted, let's say, to put it mildly, than Flashpoint. I think it's going to focus around him wanting to go back and reverse his mother's death or avoid his mother's death. But beyond that, I suspect there'll be very few parallels, not only for story reasons, but also for budget reasons. I mean, if you look at the Flashpoint story, or at least the animated version of it, you've got the Atlanteans and the Amazons fighting for control of the Earth. You got a full land invasion from the Atlanteans. You've got flooded cities. You've got all hell breaking loose, right? It's and it's certainly not at all in keeping with the characters that all the bleeding hearts are so in love with, the heroism and the hope and the optimism. My God, it's the complete opposite. So while I would love to see that, and I would love to see Jeffrey D. Morgan come back and reprise his role in the DC universe as Thomas Wayne and be
Oh, that would
Flash
be amazing.
Batman.
That'd be so amazing.
Oh, I would love that.
Mm.
Now, I mean, if what this, God, I would love for them to tie it into BVS and actually respect what Snyder did instead of throwing it away. And I have a little bit of hope that with Ezra Miller on board, we might actually have some respect for what Snyder built. But overall, what this really does is it makes me sad for what could have been. It makes me wish we got the Aquaman that was originally intended. When you look at some of the concept art for that film and some of the rumors you hear about what that film was originally envisioned as, and then you think of what Flashpoint was originally envisioned as and how dark it probably would have been, that makes me feel a sense of loss. That being said, I don't necessarily think this will be bad. And you know what? I don't have anything against Muschietti. I'm a little concerned about the fun element, but whatever. I'll go in with an open mind and hope that, if Ezra Miller has worked. Now, is this still the Grant Morrison? Is this still the story that Ezra Miller was working on with Grant Morrison, or have we moved on from the Grant Morrison story? Do you guys know?
I have no idea. I think we've moved on. I really do think that we moved on.
Yeah, I think so too. Too.
So, I'll reserve judgment on it. I don't think it's necessarily bad, but I'm also, sorry, just to touch on the reboot point, I don't see how you reboot. I mean, their biggest properties right now are Wonder Woman and Aquaman from a financial standpoint. They're not going to get rid of those two. So if you're getting into partial reboot, and you want to incorporate Pattinson's Batman, for example, I don't think that's going to work. I mean, everything we've heard about Pattinson's, or at least Matt Reeves' Batman movie or series of movies, is that they're going to be dark, serious, grounded. That's backed up by some of the comments that Pattinson's made. He's got a serious cast in there. We're talking about noir detective. Now, you try and fit a noir detective Batman in with the goofy camp that they seem to be going for with Aquaman and Wonder Woman now. I just don't think that meshes, right? And then Shazam, are you going to bring Shazam in there? Because that's pure family comedy, right? So it's a mess if you try and mesh those things. And then that's as much as people talk about the benefits of director-driven, which I agree with, there is an argument to be made that movies existing within the same universe should be tonally consistent. And not to necessarily handcuff your directors, but you should probably pick directors that make films or have a filmmaking style that fit within that universe if you want it to be connected. Otherwise, keep it separate and let each movie be its own thing, unhindered by any obligation to adhere to any sort of tonal consistency. But I don't buy into the idea that you can have a connected universe with wildly varying tone. That doesn't work for me. It might work for some, doesn't work for me. So. Who knows with this what they're going to do, but I'll reserve judgment. I do fear that they're going to try something wacky with it, but as I say, I've got that little sliver of hope that Ezra Miller will come through and ensure that there's some respect for Zach's vision in this.
Mm-hmm. Well, for me, I'm a little bit burnt out on the Flash movie. I'll be honest with you guys. It's been start, stop, move, speed ahead, reverse, turn left, turn right, no, not 180, 189. and we're here at another juncture in the crazy, Flash saga. The irony that the fastest man alive has been the slowest to make a movie it's like life, it seems, is not without a sense of irony, as Morpheus says in The Matrix. And at this point, it's a joke to me. I really don't care what anyone says about the movie. It just sounds like blah, 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 womp, womp, womp. Because I've heard so much about the movie and it's changed so much. So until the movie, until I see trailers and, hard evidence, I don't really have too much to say about it. You guys have covered, what's to be covered. The only thing I'll say is that when I saw that 2022 release date, I was just like, just get out. It's so far away. It's so far away. My goodness. That's the main thing about this whole saga for me, is with how much it's changed, it's just really burnt me out. It's become white noise in the background. It's become annoying. I don't believe anything I hear. I can't hold or latch into anything I hear because I have in the past. In the past, I've analyzed and ruminated on and thought about, things they said about the film and the direction, whoever was handling it and all that stuff, only for all that to be wasted time. So the way I feel about it now is I want something super concrete for me to hold on to. What I'll say is that, and Andy Muschietti as a director, if he's not going to bring any horror elements to it, then why did you hire him? I really don't get it. This is what I think it is. WB's now being run by New Line executives, and New Line, their forte, all those guys like Toby Emmerich, like Walter Hamada, their forte was horror movies. So this is like a solid. This was, all right, you did those films, those horror films for us. All right, let's throw you a bone. You get to do a superhero movie playing this, blockbuster, very trendy, big movie world. I really don't see any reason why he's a good fit. I just can't see it. Apart from that, they just gave it to him because, as a reward. So we'll see how it turns out. I'm not too optimistic. I'm not super pessimistic. I'm just burnt out, and I really don't care. Okay, well, sorry to end that on a bummer note.
Ouch.
Ouch. Let's rev things back up to our coming soon section, and this is where we talk about movie trailers or movie posters, films that will be coming up soon. Also, in the upcoming months and in the future going forward, we're looking to start including weekend releases. When it's a very interesting, hot weekend, we will talk about the films coming out. So let's start with the coming soon section. New Mutants trailer. New Mutants is a film that kind of like The Flash, not exactly like The Flash. The Flash is the worst. Let's make no mistake about it. But New Mutants has been in development for a long time. It's gone through a bunch of changes, reshoots, delays, what have you. It's the path to release has been an absolute complete mess. We got a trailer a couple of years ago, and now we got a new trailer. It's directed by Josh Boone, or is it? So what do you guys think of the New Mutants trailer? Christian, let's start with you.
Well, you guys know, I'm a huge fan of the X-Men comics. I started reading New Mutants as well a long time ago, and I've been a collector and everything. And I was really excited when Fox announced that this particular brand was going to be put onto the big screen, and it's got a great cast. I mean, Macy Williams is fantastic. What's her name? Anya Taylor-Joy. I think she's going to be amazing in it as well. And I think she's a good actress. And I was really excited for her to be a part of it too. And then we got that first trailer, and that first trailer definitely, you had like a little bit of The Wall going on in there, right? You had the creepy music, the creepy vibe, and they explained it that it was going to be more of like a haunted house movie with mutants in it. And I liked how it looked like we were going to get these experimentations on these kids and all that kind of stuff. And they really were trying to take a different spin, and it disappeared. It just fell off the face of the earth, and it's like it just kept getting bumped and bumped and bumped. And a lot of people blame Disney for that, and I do blame Disney because of the deal, because of the Fox acquisition. But Simon Kinberg apparently was part of the entire Fox team that wasn't necessarily happy with what Josh Boone had done. So they ordered these reshoots. And the reshoots are ordered. Somebody goes and watches it, and then they're like, hey, we liked the horror elements. Don't take away the horror elements. We want more horror. It was such a mess. So Josh Boone apparently came out in an interview recently and said, no, this is my version of the movie. I don't know about you guys. You don't bump a movie for 2 years and you don't edit nothing in it. Something had to have been edited in it. So I think something's definitely happened behind the scenes. Boone seems to be happy with it, or he's being a good soldier, one or the other. But he definitely seems to be happy with it. He's back on board again. He was much less involved with it before. Now he's back and being involved with it again. He's talking about the trailer. He's talking about the movie itself. He seems more excited about it, and we get this new trailer. I liked this trailer as much as I liked the old trailer, but it looked like a mashup of something different with the old trailer. It's like we got the old trailer with the horror elements, and then we got to see mutant powers and X-Men powers. So it was very interesting. So it does seem like something happened behind the scenes. And this movie is in an interesting spot when it comes to Marvel. The X-Men are coming. They're coming to the MCU no matter what we want or what we think. Eventually, they're going to be there. Whether that goes to Disney Plus or cartoons or whatever, it doesn't matter. The X-Men are coming. like Dark Phoenix, they could do what they want with this movie. If this movie fails, they could turn around and say, okay, it's just a one-off and it was a fun movie and that's it. We're moving on. If it does well, then they could take these characters and they could take elements of what Josh Boone did and hopefully they can incorporate it. As an X-Men fan, guys, I'm going to be there. I liked what I saw. I liked originally what their idea was. I hope they haven't strayed too far from it. But what worries me is that you have a movie that's been out there for 2 years just sitting around, and you got Josh Boone playing around saying, no, nothing's been done. Nothing's been done. I don't know if I believe that 100%. But the trailer itself did look highly entertaining, especially if you're a mutant fan.
Okay. Paul, what do you think of the New Mutants trailer?
Yeah, well, you know what? I thought it looked okay. You know, I like the horror elements to it. It didn't feel like an MCU movie to me. So it's nice that it's kept its original tone. Now it feels very young adult. I mean, I guess partly because of the age of the characters, but it has that sort of YA feel to it. So you know, it looks okay. This isn't. It's not something I'm going to rush out and see, but I'd maybe watch this on streaming. And you know what? It gives me a little bit of optimism that they might not mess with the X-Men too much under Disney, or maybe this is just the last loose end of the Fox X-Men, and then Disney will reboot it. I think I saw some headline today on a tweet that they're saying this might actually be part of the MCU now and might be a way to bring X-Men in. I didn't read it. I don't know how valid that is, but you know, it looks fine. You know, if it is connected to the MCU, then I'll take that as a positive because it's got a more serious tone than I would typically expect from an MCU film. If it's not, then as a standalone, it looks moderately interesting. So you know, and like you say, it's got a good cast. I think it might be fine.
Yeah, I side with Christian's analysis on this. I really liked the first trailer. It didn't show much, didn't give much of a story, but it showed tone. It showed intent and a hint of the story, and we could see that it felt a lot more intimate. It felt like it was like going to be a haunted house superhero story, period. It's very much in the vein of the kind of stuff that M. Night Shyamalan has done. This one looks like it's a lot more like there's, as you said, there is that element. Yes, it's still there. Then tacked on is a bunch of like big generic superhero blockbuster stuff, and I don't like that. If they're going to do a horror movie, commit to it. Commit to how different you're going to make it. I mean, this is basically going to be the first full-on horror superhero movie. Commit to it. Don't chicken out, you know. Yeah, that has really bothered me about it. It's a huge disappointment. Obviously, with all the rejigging and all the reshuffling of, you know, due dates and reshoots and moving from studio to studio, it was bound to be butchered quite a bit. And this trailer shows that it's quite disappointing, to be honest. It's a loss of great potential in my eyes. But we'll see how it turns out in the end. As for the director, back in the smart move, he's going to work in this industry again. Best not to burn bridges. Don't pull a Josh Trank.
Yeah.
Pull a David Ayer. David Ayer supported Suicide Squad, said every single good thing about it, said it is his film. Years later, we're hearing that it was also butchered. But the good thing about it, and he's even supporting James Gunn making Suicide Squad 2, is that his next film is going to be for Warner Brothers because he played nice. So, you know, smart people are professionals about, you know, what they're doing. And, you know, yeah, I don't read into his support of it as all the movie's pristine and it was never, you know, meddled with. And no, he's being a professional, which is expected. And that's put on him. So, that trailer done with, we can move on to Quiet Place 2, directed by John Krasinski, who directed the first one, with Emily Blunt returning as the new leader of the family. She's the matriarch. And interestingly, I saw like Cillian Murphy in it. Like, that was a really cool surprise. Cillian Murphy's an excellent actor. He's A Quiet Place, the first one. As soon as I saw the trailer, I knew it was going to be special. The trailer didn't convince a lot of people, but if you go back and look at my most anticipated films of it was 2017, I think. It was like right near the top. The concept was amazing. I could see like visually the style of shooting the cinematography was handled with craft. So I'm curious to see how A Quiet Place 2 goes. And we got the trailer this week. So let's start with Christian. What's your reaction to the trailer for Quiet Place Part 2?
Man, this trailer was intense. It was really intense. It starts off kind of crazy with, I guess she's driving the kid, and it looks like we're going to see the downfall of like humanity, or at least part of it. And she's going through this, all of a sudden, like the radio stops and there's no sounds or anything. And then you see one of the creatures jumping onto a bus, and then they almost crash, and they do this. And it was just a really intense trailer, and it remained that way from beginning to end. The trailer made you feel very uncomfortable from beginning to end. And I liked that because the first Quiet Place movie made me feel very uncomfortable from beginning to end. So if they're going to bring that whole feeling back, hello. And I was pleasantly surprised to see Cillian Murphy in this, because I didn't realize he was going to be in it. I was very pleasantly surprised to see him. And Emily Blunt, by the way, does such a great job. I think she's such an amazing actress, and I liked what she brought even in the little bit that we saw into this trailer. So I was really pleasantly surprised by First Quiet Place. I did not expect to like it as much as I did, and I really liked what we saw in this trailer. I also like the fact that they're doing two things. Number one, it seems like they're expanding the world a little bit, and we're not just going to deal with just the one family. You run the risk of losing some of the fear factor if they get too explicitly and make us see the aliens a little too much. If you reveal them just a little too much, then they stop being scary and it turns just into more sci-fi instead of sci-fi/horror. But that's okay. I think I'm going to give Krasinski the benefit of the doubt and say that I think that he can do it properly. And the other thing I liked is the very Last of Us type of feeling, where they're asking, if you do survive something like this, what do you have to do in order to survive? And are you the right, I hate asking the question, are you worth saving? But what kind of person are you if you really did everything that you needed to do in order to survive this type of thing? And is her family, should they really be interacting with those type of people? So I liked how the trailer seemed to be going in that direction. Hyped for this one, guys. And pleasantly surprised that I'm hyped as well.
Nice. Paul, what did you think of A Quiet Place? I haven't heard your thoughts on that film, and then segue into what you thought of the trailer.
Sure. Well, you know what, the first one, I I heard that it was extremely well reviewed, and I convinced my wife to watch it with me, and it's rare that we can actually agree on something to watch. So she really liked it. She thought it was great. I thought it was okay. I mean, I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a little overhyped. Had I not gone in hearing all the hype about how great it was, perhaps I would have been maybe more blown away by it. But I thought it was fine. To me, that was a good streaming movie, and that's what this one looks like to me as well. This is something that I would not go see in theaters, but I do like the cast. I love Emily Blunt. I like Cillian Murphy. I liked the first film, didn't love it. This one has a little more. I can admit I was a little confused by the timeline in this one, because I thought when they started with day one, I'm thinking they're going back and showing you how it started, but then they jump into the future, which Christian had to help me through and refresh my memory a little bit. But it looks fine. But a lot of daylight. You see more of the monsters, like Christian pointed out. It has the potential to show its budget. Now, I imagine they have a bigger budget for this one than they did for the last one, given its financial success. But this is something that I would be excited about watching on streaming. But it's not something I'm going to rush out to theater to see. So it looks fine. It looks and I hate to fulfill your you're saying I'm never positive about anything, and then unfortunately tonight I think you're dead on with just about everything, and I do feel like I am actually more positive most of the time. But you know what? This is fine. It looks okay. It looks
we got to give Paul. You got to give Paul a little bit of credit, man. Like we were reviewing. Remember, we did the Wonder Woman trailer and even Black Widow, and both of those, he was like, "Yeah, all right, I think these look okay." So yeah, I'll give you credit. Come on.
Yeah.
And don't forget my intense love for the Rise of Skywalker in the face of all the hate that's facing.
There you go.
I'm using up all my positivity on Rise of Skywalker. So
all right.
No, this one looks fine. It looks good. Good enough.
Cool. For me, loved A Quiet Place. As I said, was one of my most anticipated movies for a long time. Followed it through production, through every trailer, and when it came out, I was glad to see it reviewed well. I was glad to see people enjoying it. I was glad to see a small scale film by a new director, performing so well. And when I got to consume it myself, I loved it, which is the most important thing. So, does that have much effect on how I feel about Quiet Place 2? Here's a plot twist. Not really. Because I feel that sequels are very hard to pull off. Very hard to pull off. It's difficult for directors to recapture the magic, for directors to keep the train on the tracks. As Paul alluded to, usually they get bigger budgets, they want to show more, they want to tell more, and that can go awry very quickly. So I'm very curious to see if John Krasinski is able to contain this hype machine that has ballooned to, massive proportions. It will be very essential because part of the charm of the first film was that it was just focused on this small family and their fight for survival. Showing more monsters, more survivors, more people out there. We'll see how that works. I'm I'm curious at the moment. I'm willing to watch Quiet Place 2. It's a terrible movie or it's an average movie, and I can still hold A Quiet Place as a solitary new classic, solitary new great film. So yeah, the trailer, it didn't blow me away. I didn't see enough for me to think it's going to be really good. But I didn't see enough for me to say it's going to be bad either. I'm anticipating this one with bated breath. Let's put it that way. So let's end our coming soon discussion with the Birds of Prey trailer, and we're gonna have quite a bit to say about this one because the trailer itself is crazy. It's out there. It's doing a lot of things. Whether it does them well or does them to your satisfaction is up to each individual. And there has been quite a bit of behind-the-scenes drama involved with this as well. I mean, which DC film doesn't have behind-the-scenes drama? But yeah, let's start with Christian. And Christian, tell us how you took to this trailer.
Yeah, let's before we say anything else, we'll talk about the trailer first. The trailer, you're right, was colorful. It was insane. It was loud. It had Harley Quinn basically snorting coke at one point. It looked like, and then she goes crazy, and she's beating people with a bat and everything like that. And there's a lot of girl power, and there's some very good moments where you get to see some of the characters' powers, their metahuman abilities, which I think was really nice as well. It was good to see that. So there's some really cool moments in this. And then you got to see Black Mask putting on his black mask. So, hey, there's a couple of really good things. And we mentioned this when we reviewed the first trailer that came out months and months ago. We talked about how much we really love Margot Robbie, and we're big fans of Ewan McGregor and what he brings to the table with this. So nothing in this trailer necessarily made me go in the other direction with that. I'm still absolutely enamored with her version of Harley. I still think he's going to do a fantastic job. And I still have, along with you, Lupe, some of the questions about the production design, because we broke down everybody's costumes and things like that. And we were just like, what the hell are they doing? And none of that looks like it's changed, really. So I still have my same concerns. Here's where I have my issue after the trailer. As exciting as a trailer as it was, and as cool of a trailer as it was, and as hip of a trailer as it was, I am a huge comic fan. You guys know that. I've been such a huge fan of this comic book movie boom that we've had since the days of Blade and the first X-Men, continuing to the Dark Knight and Iron Man and many of the Logan. It's really, we've had some really awesome movies over the course of the last 20 years. This is the very first time I've watched a trailer and walked away saying, nah, I don't know if I want to see this one in theaters or not. Now, I have not seen every single. Yeah, I know. I have not seen every single comic book movie in theaters. There are some that I see later on in digital, like Ant-Man. There's a few others that I saw on digital later. But I do see a chunk of them in theaters. And I'll probably will, because my wife and her friends are all into this. So unless they do a girls' night, I'm sure I'm going to wind up going to see this in opening weekend. Mm-hmm. But this is the first time I watched the trailer that I was like, you know what? I don't know if I'm hyped for this or not. And yes, sometimes I watch the trailer and I got hyped, and I watched the movie and it wasn't so good. I'm looking at you, Captain Marvel. But sometimes the movie doesn't turn out to be so good. This is the first time that I don't know if I have high hopes, because I felt that they tried to do a lot of things in this trailer that they didn't do in the first one. The reshoots, I think, are pretty apparent, and the tonal shift was apparent. Now, I don't want to sound like some kind of misogynist, but I wonder how far that girl power is going to take you. One of the complaints that we all had in the very first trailer was how far they were trying to push Harley Quinn as the star. Harley, it's Harley, just shooting her it's just, they're throwing her in your face consistently. And it's almost like everybody else who really cares. This is the Harley show. It's not really even the Birds of Prey show. And this felt like it all over again. And it was not only that, but it was this infusion of ultra girl power, which is fine. It's cool. X-Men Dark Phoenix had that girl power moment, and Endgame had that girl power moment. I mean, those scenes are fine, but I don't know if I need to have it thrown in my face all the time. I'm just wondering about this one. Again, probably going to go see it. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe we can have a more in-depth conversation about it after I hear your thoughts and hear where you guys are coming from. But I just feel meh about it. And I got to tell you, I'm sad that I feel that way, because I want to be more excited over it.
Wow. All right, Paul, why don't you add to the conversation?
Yeah, so if you guys were looking for some positivity from me, this is not it. This was one of the worst trailers I've seen in a long time, and it was and I was cautiously optimistic for this one. Like I was holding out some hope that maybe this one would surprise me, because I didn't love the last trailer, but I thought, well, maybe they can make it work. This one made me miss the last trailer. This just looked bad. I mean, it was where do I start? Try too hard would be the first thing that pops into my mind. And like you guys said, cool, hip, quirky, girl power. It was try too hard on all those things. Annoying. Oh my God. I mean, now I'll say by the end of Suicide Squad, I was pretty annoyed by the Harley Quinn character, like the nasally voice and the nonsense with the character interactions in the third act second and third act of Suicide Squad. I thought was her character got worse and worse as that movie went on. Like, I liked her in prison, and I liked her in her scenes with Joker. Once she started getting with the squad and we got more of that nasally banter, I was just like, oh, make it stop. And then by the end of that movie, I didn't really care to see more Harley Quinn. But what they've taken away from this is that everybody loves Harley, and they love the annoying nasally Harley. And maybe that's the Harley from the comics or the cartoon. I don't know. I was never a Harley fan, really. Her look is interesting, but really until I'd seen Suicide Squad, the movie, I had really no knowledge of her. And as I say, I liked what I saw for the first half of the film, and then the second half of the film went downhill rapidly, and they've doubled down on that. So I'm getting a lot of what annoys me. I thought the dialogue was cringe. As I say, trying way too hard. And what this told me, and maybe this is a saving grace for this film, this told me loud and clear that I'm not the target audience. And that's fine. Like Captain Marvel, I wasn't the target audience for Captain Marvel. That one was made, to bring, 5 to 12-year-old girls into the MCU fandom, and it worked. My daughter's 8; she loved it. That it did its job. This one to me is a girl power movie made by women for young women, and maybe they'll love it. And based on what I'm seeing online, I think they will love it. This is not a movie made for 40-year-old men, I don't think. So, hey, fine. I hope they enjoy it. This is not a movie for me, though. And who knows? Maybe it'll surprise me. I like Ewan McGregor. I like some of the actresses in it. Nothing about this trailer worked for me. Very little work. So, I won't be seeing this one in theaters unless something dramatic changes or it gets incredible word of mouth. This is something I will wait for streaming. And you know what? I'll still watch it on streaming just to see if I'm wrong. Give it a chance. But not a strong trailer in my opinion at all.
Wow. Tell us how you really feel, huh?
Don't hold back, man. Don't hold back.
I was trying to be as diplomatic as I could there.
Well, you failed.
Exiled for a reason.
For a reason. No, I appreciate the honesty. That's what we're all about all day, every day. For me, I really liked it. and I have been very pessimistic about this. Yeah, I loved it, to be sincere. I really did. And I've been pessimistic about this film from the jump.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised, Lupe. I really am.
Yeah. Like, one, I think in this trailer, Harley's acting more like Harley Quinn. It's a very subtle thing, the difference between Harley Quinn and what Margot Robbie was doing before. I thought that what Margot Robbie was doing before was trying to be this little cute, boppy kind of character, but here she's a lot zanier, a lot crazier, and Harley is batshit crazy. That's what she's about, you know. So I really think that they've come closer to home on that, and I appreciate that. And it's not about comic book accuracy, because I really don't care about comic book accuracy. I just care about very interesting, potent representations of characters. You can reinvent a character, and it's nothing like what's in the comic book, as long as it's potent and has, you know, it vibrates on a high frequency. As for the other characters, I still have the same problems. I think they're inferior versions of what they could be. You don't even have to reinvent the wheel. What they are in the comics is already pretty outstanding. I felt like they've been lessened, which is just quite a strange turn of events to me. Black Mask, he wears the black mask, but still he is this sort of campy, weird character. Yeah. I'm not sure it's supposed to be gay, flamboyantly gay. I've heard about that, but whether he's just a campy guy or he's a gay, you know, flamboyantly gay guy, that's not the best representation of this character. That could be an awesome character to have in a Birds of Prey movie as an original character, but you don't have to change what's already an iconic character to something that's just less appealing, less interesting than what it already is. You don't change an icon except if there's something wrong with it. And Black Mask, as he is in the comics, is amazing. If you had interpreted Black Mask on screen multiple times and then you wanted to change it, that makes sense. But for the first iteration, it's just a strange turn of events, and ditto for a lot of the characters. For Huntress, for the characters in general. I did like the way the trailer was cut. I like the vibe of the trailer. Love the visuals. Chad Stahelski has done a really good job with the action elements to it. I really like what I'm seeing from Harley Quinn. I think that the action, obviously, Chad Stahelski is like an action junkie and amazing actor. So the action is going to be even better than Suicide Squad. I felt that the action in that film was one of the weak parts of it. So when this comes out, I will go see it. Yeah, opening weekend, as a matter of fact, as it stands. And
wow.
Yeah, if I'm proven wrong, let it be. But I think Chad Stahelski has done a good job of salvaging what could have been absolutely poor. It still has elements that are not perfect, but so far, so decent. And there we have it. Our final trailer, our final topic, our final word in ENN number 16. Happy New Year, guys. It's the first of the year and the first of many more to come. Hopefully we can hit about 50 or 51, you know, minus our Christmas break or our Thanksgiving as well. Yeah, so how do you guys feel about this episode? I enjoyed, you know, chatting with you guys and getting back into the groove. Christian.
Oh, it was good to get back into it, man. I know it's been a couple of weeks. We've all had time with our families, and that's fantastic. But there's been so much movie news, you know, that come out, and no matter what, man, we all love this stuff, and it's just so good to talk about it. And I love hearing how you guys feel on things, even when we don't agree. I don't care. I love it.
Yeah, Paul.
Yeah, no, it's great to be back. I know I didn't have a lot of positivity to share tonight, and I'm eagerly awaiting the backlash to my Birds of Prey comments. But you know, it's great to be back with you guys. I've been looking forward to it. You know, and I'm excited to see how many weeks we can hit this year. Like you say, let's try and get somewhere near 50 this year, and we got a lot of good stuff coming up. You know, For me, this was not my my A list of topics tonight, but I'm looking forward to the year that's coming ahead, and hopefully it's going to be a fun year, and we can keep it up.
Absolutely. And so there you have it. For Paul, for Christian, I have been Lupe. Paul, where can people find you on the internet?
I'm scared to say right now where you can find me, but
tell them. Go get it, guys.
You could find me at _Paul_P on Twitter, and feel free to share your thoughts.
And Christian, where can you be found?
If you want to talk about Paul on my timeline, you can find me on Twitter at chart6363. I'm the therapeutic guitarist.
Cool. And I'm Lupe. You can find me on Twitter at LiveLoveLupe. You can find me on Vero at LiveLoveLupe. I really hate that name on Vero, and I'm going to change it to just LiveLoveLupe. It's like really weird. But without further ado, we are out. We will see you guys next week. And remember, in everything you do, whatever you say, stay excited.